Even short-term exposure to polluted air can increase the risk of stroke. A recently published meta-analysis linked air pollution to an increased risk of stroke. Scientists have found that 5 days of exposure to pollution is enough to significantly increase the risk of stroke. Scientists looked at the links between a number of common air pollutants and the risk of stroke. The results of their work suggest that even short-term exposure to polluted air significantly increases the risk of stroke. The results and description of the research were published in Neurology, the Journal of the American Academy of Neurology. Previous research has shown an association between long-term exposure to air pollution and an increased risk of stroke. Explained study co-author Ahmed Toubasi from the University of Jordan in Amman. However, the correlation between short-term exposure to air pollution and stroke was less clear. In our study, instead of focusing on weeks or months of exposure, we looked at just 5 days and found an association between short-term exposure to air pollution and an increased risk of stroke, he added. The authors reviewed 110 studies that included over 18 million cases of stroke. They looked at pollutants such as nitrogen dioxide, ozone, carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide. They also took into account the different sizes of dust particles suspended in the air, PM2.5, PM10 and PM1, i.e. dust whose components have a diameter of less than 1 micron. PM2.5 or less includes pollutants we inhale from motor vehicle exhaust, fuel combustion in power plants and other industries, as well as forest and grass fires. PM10 includes, among others, dust from roads and construction sites. Findings and implications. The analyses show that the risk of stroke was increased in people exposed to higher concentrations of various types of air pollutants. Higher nitrogen dioxide concentrations have been linked to 28% increased risk of stroke. In turn, higher ozone levels have been associated with a 5% increase the risk of stroke. Carbon monoxide by 26%, and sulfur dioxide by 15%. Higher PM1 concentrations have been linked to 9% increased risk of stroke, PM2.5 from 15%, and PM10 with 14% increase in risk. Higher levels of air pollution were also associated with a higher risk of death from stroke. Higher nitrogen dioxide concentrations have been linked to 33%. An increase in the risk of death due to stroke, sulfur dioxide, by 60%, PM2.5 by 9%, and PM10 by 2%. There is a strong and significant association between air pollution and the occurrence of stroke, as well as death from stroke within 5 days of exposure, Toubasi said. This highlights the importance of global efforts to create solutions to reduce air pollution. This may reduce the number of strokes and their consequences, he added. The authors noted that the study had some limitations. First of all, the studies on which the meta-analysis was based were overwhelmingly conducted in rich countries, with minimal data from lower and middle-income countries.